Hey, I'm Julia Lopez, communication architect, international speaker, author of Leading in High Heels, and your host. Welcome to Brave, Bold, and Brilliant podcast. Together with my guests, I will share with you inspiring stories where being brave and bold were the trigger to becoming brilliant. For the past decade, I've been helping professionals to express themselves with clarity and confidence in any stage and arena of their lives. Communication is key to success, and stories have the potential to transform lives and move people into action. There is someone, somewhere, who needs to hear exactly what you have to say. Be brave, bold, and brilliant, and speak up unapologetically. Lovelda is a world-class MC, moderator, and host who enables event organizers to transform events into memorable experiences. Witty, energetic, and funny, she has had the honor of introducing political figureheads, CEOs, household names such as Monica Lewinsky, Kunal Naayar, best known as Raj from the sitcom Big Bang Theory, and Polman, ex-CEO of Unilever, to the stage. Lovelda Vicenzi is truly the event organizer's secret weapon. She's also a champion for diversity on large global stages. As a speaker business coach to female business owners, she teaches women how to build sustainable, viable income streams from speaking.
Dear Lovelda, it's a pleasure to have you here with me today for this session where you share with my audience why you think you're brave, bold, and brilliant. But first, let me just briefly share where I met you, because I met you about a year ago in an event in London, an event that you were organizing. And I didn't know you before. I just got to by chance to see you in the social media. I don't even know if it was Facebook or LinkedIn. And you were announcing this because you have a group called World Class Female Speakers. And I said, wow, that is my thing. I want to go and check this lady out. And I really enjoyed the event. I came back home with lots of material, like tangible material, but also the experience there was really good. You brought very good speakers, and you brought agents on stage to explain what is needed to become a pro. So you are the lady who conquers the stages as a host, and I want to just pass the floor to you to share your stories with us when you were brave, bold, and brilliant.
Okay, then. It's so lovely to be here. And you are brave, like letting me share stories, because I could go on.
I will stop you when it's necessary, the story.
I'm that person. I'm like, let me tell you a story. Let's do story time. This is going to be fun. So an example of when I was a story of being brave, and I decided to kind of theme mine. So all of the stories I've selected are stories which are very business orientated, that I'm hoping will be things that are inspiring or at least insightful to people to go, oh yeah, I remember that. I would say my brave moment was cluelessly starting my very first business. And you could say it was either brave or courageous or stupid. Like, I mean, there was a lot of stupidity involved in it, to be honest, because there was just pure naivety. So I'll give you an example of how silly it was. I decided I wanted this business. This is after being in the personal development space for a while. And I was like, yeah, I'm hyped up. Yeah, I want to start a business, as you do. And then I remember seeing this business coach, like sales coach. This is just before I'd start working in sales. And I thought, yeah, him. He'll help me to get this business off the ground, because what do you need to have a business? You need to sell. So I went off and came up with this cool idea initially I thought the idea, I thought it'd be really great to do a business where I've always been really big on like experiences and people like having a good time. So I wanted to do like this training concept, but we do it like going skiing, and then, you know, so there'd be like a ski part like on these like slopes. It was indoor skiing. And then there'd be like a classroom component. And I was like freaking pumped because I thought this is the best idea ever. So I go to the sales coach, and I've done the work, right? Like when I say I've done the work, I called the place, I've got the pricing, I know how much it needs to be. I've written my full outline of what I think the content's going to be. And I'm like, yeah, this is so cool. I've got the best idea ever. Pick up the phone, I call my sales coach, and I'm like, listen, I've got this idea and I'm ready to go. And he said, so how are you going to sell it? And I went, that's where you come in. What do you think I hired you for, right? And he said, do you even know that people want this? And I was like, huh?
It's such an amazing idea. How couldn't they?
I know, right? But it's a good idea. And he was like, do you have an audience? And I was like, it's your job to teach me how to sell to people. That's how I build the audience. Like, I have no clue. Like, I'm not in this sector at all. I'm just excited because I have something to sell. And so I remember him saying to me, he basically he didn't poop all over my idea, but he definitely took the wind out of my sails that day, because I was ready to go and, you know, start finding clients and having these conversations. And I felt like I needed to have the whole business structure set up. So then he was just going to tell me like the sales process to associate with it. But he kind of flipped it on its head, and he was like, do you actually have something that people want to buy? And I was like, well, I don't know. So I ended up converting it and starting by just sending messages out to my friends saying, look, I'd really love to get some of my entrepreneurial minded friends together to have a chat. Because he said, why don't you just invite some people for dinner and like talk it through with people who might be appropriate? And I really loved doing that. So I did these like dinners a couple of times. Everybody paid for their own food. They just came along and we had dinner, and then I extended that out. I decided I'd start charging, and I called it Dine Events. And that was pretty much when I started my first business. I would say it was brave because it was humbling as well. I think, you know, the braveness is to kind of understand that sometimes the route to success in the industry that you choose is maybe not what you think it is. Right? You know, it's not a business I have anymore. It taught me a lot. I got very comfortable with pricing and sales. I worked in sales full time, but honestly, the first time when I converted that from this like come along and pay for your own food to maybe you should pay a ticket price, you know, and I was the trauma of just converting that from let's just have a conversation where I'm inviting friends along to no, you're going to pay to come to this. Like just that little shift, the changes that it made, getting comfortable with being really uncomfortable. Like, you know, the vision is bigger than I'm committed to having a business, even though I'm not really entirely sure what the heck it was way back then. But having something that you're committed enough to, that you're okay, you can get okay and with being uncomfortable and taking the uncomfortable action, because the goal or the vision is bigger than where I was right then. That oh my gosh, the number of uncomfortable conversations I have. So it took a lot of bravery to just kind of go, okay, is that what you say I should do? I'm going to go do it. And then thinking, hello, I know I speak to you all the time. I'm going to faff around for 35 minutes on a call when I really just called to ask you one thing, because I'm too scared to ask you the one thing that I called to ask you. So I'm going to sit on this call for ages, and then right at the end I'll go, oh, by the way, the reason I called, and, you know, I could feel my mouth drying up and my throat, and, you know, so yeah, there was a lot of bravery, and business number one of many. If I knew there was going to be such a business graveyard when I started, then I don't know if I would have gone as far. So I think you just have to take it step by step.
Don't you think that the bravery as such for the first step ever, then after it becomes more as I go for it. Maybe it's the transition to the boldness, because first, from the perspective that I see, is the daring, because you feel like you're not good enough, you don't have the experience enough, but then all of a sudden they said, I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. But then the next time is, of course, when something new appears, you ask questions. Am I prepared? Am I good enough? You have some experience, but it might be something completely new. But you had the brave experience before. So then you're more willing to take that bold step, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it absolutely got easier over time. And it's sometimes just reminding myself, like, I didn't come out of the womb walking. I don't know of any baby that came out of the womb and just like walked across the floor. Like, you crawled, you fell over a lot, you got scuffs, you got bumps, you know, and after a while you learned what balance was. I didn't get on a bicycle and immediately instinctively know what to do. I probably fell off my bike a number of times first. You know, if I look back at video footage of the first few times I'm on stage, I'm shocked that anybody paid me. Like, honestly, it wasn't great. Like, there was rooms for improvement. I look now and I can see a very different version of myself. And so it was accepting, I guess the brave decision within all of it is accepting the journey and accepting the ups and downs and successes and failures, the got it right and I should have known that kind of come along with that journey. It's not quite so cut and dry.
So share with us, how did you land on TV?
Yeah, so kind of brings me onto my bold story. I guess I've always been that I have this ability to say yes and work shizzle out later. Like, I don't know why. I kind of, it sounds exciting. In the moment I get caught up and I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then just before like I actually have to do the thing I've committed to, I'm like, holy heck, what did I just say yes to? And I really am not qualified. And who, you know, I have a delayed reaction. You know, some people get that in the immediate moment of being asked. I don't. I just see the exciting potential. And then after the fact, I'm like, uh-oh, what did I say?
How am I going to do it?
How am I going to do it? So I had a friend of mine. I say friend. At the time, she was actually more like an acquaintance. We didn't speak that often. I'd met her a few times at a few events, and I get this call out of the blue. You know, sometimes you get those calls, you're looking like, oh, heck, what's such and such calling me for? So I'm like, hey, girl, how you doing? Like, I hadn't spoken. Like, I just thought this is a bit odd. Like, I don't mind the call, but we don't speak that often, and it's been so long that it kind of caught me off guard. And she said, well, I've been doing this commenting for this TV show for a while, news channel, and I'm actually having to step down because I'm so busy, but I told them that I would find somebody else to come help, and I thought of you. And I'm thinking, what the frick did you think of me? So she said, would you do it? And I said, sure, no problem. You know, at this point, I'm kind of thinking, this is going to be interesting because I don't watch the news, so this should be fun. So I get on, my mom's laughing at me like, Lovelda, are you for real right now? I was like, what? Hey, if they're going to let me, I'll give it a pop. It sounds like it would be kind of fun. Like, I've never done TV before. Like, I've never commented on live TV before. This can be interesting. I'm still in the moment of going, what is the potentiality of it? So I'm excited. And I remember speaking to one of the producers and I said, I'm going to be completely upfront and honest. And this is the other thing in owning my own, like, there's a boldness in just owning, these are the limits of my experience. Like, I can take it to this point, but anything further than that, I can't do. And so I said, look, I'm not a journalist. I don't come from a journalistic background. I'm not deeply into politics. If you're looking for somebody who's going to have that depth of experience to talk about what happened in 1985, I am not her. What I am very good at is having an opinion on pretty much anything and developing a very sound and considered opinion very quickly. That I am excellent at. That I can do.
I love that.
Under pressure.
Having an opinion about everything to create.
I have an opinion on anything and everything. I said the other thing that I bring to the table is I didn't grow up here. I didn't grow up in the UK. I grew up in the South Pacific in a developing country. I had a very different sort of lifestyle. I had very international schools. And I grew up in a country in which, I swear to goodness, when I moved here and I was in geography class, my geography teacher thought I lived in a tree. I didn't. I lived in a house like all other ordinary people. Like, I was not living in a tree. It wasn't, I wasn't living in a country that was that backward. I lived in a city in a country that was developing, but because it was Papua New Guinea and they're known for the rainforests and their tribes and this sort of stuff, I think he thought he's like, what is it like to be in a tribe? And I was like, shoot if I know. I've never been in one. Like, I just lived in a country that had them, right? And so I was used to the news depicting where I lived very differently to where I lived. And so my perspective on the news was very much, I want to bring an alternative opinion and some balanced thought that isn't just the thought process that most people kind of go through by default. And so that's what I said to them. I said, look, if that sounds interesting to you, I will be that person that will challenge some normal beliefs, or I would bring in a cultural aspect to things where other people may not. What I learned from that is I said yes. Then I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning because the shows used to be at like 6. Absolutely bricking it. My poor sister's up going, Lovelda, are you okay? I was like, what have I done? I don't even watch the news. I don't understand any of these topics. Like, what have I done? I get there. I'm nervous as all heck. I'm like hot and bothered. I made the mistake of asking, what should I not do? Don't assume the camera is not on you just because we're not speaking to you. Like, the camera could be on you at any point. I'm like, that helps. Like, now I'm like this the whole time. Like, okay, then. If I didn't know what the questions were going to be, I just had a highlight of news stories they thought they may cover that day. But you don't get the question set up front. It's completely live. It's international. I was like, what the hell have I done? But it opened a huge number of doors for me. I did pretty well because they kept inviting me back for over 6 months. So I was doing that regularly, pretty much almost every weekend for about 6 or 7 months. Then I had a break and they invited me back again for a second round of doing that. And then I moved on to do other things. It was not a priority for me. But the beauty of being that bold to say yes I knew I could do it. Like, I knew that I could answer the questions and that sort of thing. There was just a lot about the context I wasn't used to. I hadn't been on live TV. I'm not talking about a topic that's naturally my expertise that I would normally dive into. But it was a very unique opportunity. It was speaking, it was audiences, it was TV. And I thought, I feel like at some point I'm going to be doing something television related. And even if this isn't exactly in the ballpark, it's close enough. And I don't know when an opportunity like this is going to come again. And the beauty of saying yes to something that was a stretch was I grew so quickly. And there's so much I took from that short period of time doing that. Because I got better at it and better at preparing and quick research and, being able to still have personality, being myself in that kind of environment and understanding the dynamics of how that space works. What really happens behind the scenes.
Your best side on TV, on the screen.
When I look back and I'm kind of like, damn, Lovelda, you need to stop hunching. Pull your shoulders back, woman. Like you look like you're curled over the whole time. It was all those little things. Yes. That means that, you know what, now if somebody called me to do something on TV talking about the thing that I actually do, I'm going to kill it. Because it's all the little bold steps that you take that prepare you for that moment that allow you to actually like catapult. When people say overnight success and it's like, no, it's like 10 years in the making. The exactly. 10 years is the bold step after bold step after random bold step where you're kind of going, what the frick has this actually got to do with anything? Where you can look back later and go, oh yeah, that rubbish gig I did in the middle of flipping nowhere where, there was the chaos. Like, I now know that in this space, you throw me in when the pressure's really on, when it's the event of the century, I can do this. Like, I knew I could interview Monica Lewinsky in a heartbeat because I didn't know I was going to be doing it. I was introducing her and it was no interview. And then literally on the day, 2 hours before she went on stage, they said she's agreed to an interview. But I knew I could do that because I emceed a fashion event where I had no information on the day that we were emceeing. So I know I can pull stuff together quickly. Like, I literally kind of going, I need every freaking designer to come and speak to me because I have nothing. I have no bios. I have no nothing. And so those moments that you make those decisions and you find the courage and the boldness and the bravery to kind of go forward and it feels like chaos means that when you're put under pressure, when it really counts, you've got the like little reminders in the back of your mind where you're like, I got this. Like, this I can do, because if I was able to deal with all of these other disasters, I know I'm not going to say something stupid. I did live TV. I've pulled together events at the 11th hour. I've dealt with people having seizures in a break. Like, this is fine. It's a conversation with the person. Like, I can do this.
But I want to go just a little bit back to what you're saying about taking bold steps, because even if we want to motivate our listeners out there to go for it, and there is something inside that is the trigger for you to say that yes, even if at the moment you are not really sure what it is, but also because I believe we have to be very attentive to what we get into. I'm very bold as well, but there are certain things, as you said, I have my limits. You have to be able to identify that, and being able to identify that comes with experience. So because you have the experience, you know that there's certain things you can extract yourself, even if you don't have the answers in the moment in time. And then you can jump into something. I just don't want people out there that have no experience to start jumping in opportunities and then start burning bridges.
It's not about burning bridges at all. There's a huge difference. And it's also about sticking to your lane. So whilst I did a lot of debating and stuff like that as a kid. So I'm, in terms of being able to think about and process information, it's actually something I can do very well. And I'd interviewed hundreds of people by this point anyway. So when I was asked to do this, it was a referral. So I kind of went, they are not going to suggest to put me forward for something where their reputation's on the line if there wasn't some belief that I would actually be able to do this effectively. Because it's a sort of thing where nobody deliberately goes out to burn their own reputation. So there was that. It's aligned to a bigger vision I had for myself. So I'm not going completely off-piste. I thought, you know what? I've always wanted, for me, the idea of having my own TV show is like the ultimate. And so this isn't my own TV show, but it is experience in a professional television environment that I've never been in before. And I thought, I'll go do it once. If I'm rubbish, they'll just never have me back, right? So I did the work. I was up. I probably had 2 hours sleep that night. I was up late researching. From the time I said yes, I started downloading apps on the news so that I would have some sort of context to be able to talk around certain topics. But I didn't just say yes and then show up on the day and go like, hey, here I am. Like, it was not that. I said yes, and I thought, who do I know that's been in this space before? What recommendations can I have from people? What's the lane that I want to be in? How do I want to represent? What questions can they ask me that I know that I can answer sensibly? And I worked my butt off. Like, I didn't just show up. So being bold, the first step is saying yes, but the second step is being prepared to do all the work required such that you show up and you give 100% in the time that's allocated. It's not about perfectionism. It's about, did I do the absolute best I could do in the time that was available to me to do it in? If I've got 4 hours notice to be able to prepare myself, did I make the best use of that 4 hours? Such that I could do the best amount of work and show up as the best version of myself in the time that was allocated. And so it is a very important point. This is not about just being that person who says yes to stuff that you really can't do, because I've worked with those people. You don't keep clients long. It's not a good way to go.
This is why I'm telling you. And I know that you are brilliant on stage. I've seen it. And share with us when did you transition to become a host and more an MC? Because I know you do give speeches, but you're more into hosting and emceeing events. Am I correct?
Yeah, although that being said, I'm now being asked to do talks. So this is interesting. It's an interesting kind of space I'm in. So for me, it was getting really conscious and following the breadcrumbs. I was not a 5-year-old going, Mom, when I grow up, I want to be an MC, moderator, and host. I didn't even know that existed as a thing. I didn't know you could create. And most people I speak to are like, what? You can actually make a living out of it? I'm like, yeah, you can. It's a thing. It's a real bona fide thing. But I didn't know it was a thing when I started. I didn't know this. But what was happening with me, so remember at the beginning when I said I started this business, I kind of naively started a business having no idea what I wanted to do. And I did lots. I had a few different iterations of business and what that looked like over time. And none of them actually fully ever fit me. There was always something where I was like, I like this, but, and not that you love everything in business, but something just always felt a little bit off, where I'm like, this isn't something I feel like I should be doing forever. I'm just not sitting well with me. It doesn't light me up. I don't want to tell people this is the thing that I do. There's just too much resistance. And what used to happen was I would be asked to help like introduce people or co-host things. And then a friend of mine brought me in to help kind of co-host a fashion show. And I thought, oh, sure, no problem. Like, it's something a little bit different. I'll give it a go. I'm sure I could introduce stuff. I like fashion. I like this sort of stuff. It sounds like fun. It was like a charity related thing. It wasn't paid. Surprisingly, when I got off that stage, 2 people asked me what my fees were. And I was like, this never happens. So, had to navigate that situation. Again, at the time, this was just this thing where I was like, oh, this looks like a little revenue opportunity. I'll make something up. I'll do it. It's like kind of a one-off thing. And then I remember pitching for a speaking gig, didn't get the gig because they went and got people, like the CEO of Cobra Beer and Rachel Elnor to be on the stage. So I was not worthy. And so I said, do you need a host? And they're like, yeah, sure. And I remember getting to the event, and it was one of the first more polished events where there was like a speaker green room and like coffee and then I could sit and talk to these people, like bona fidely talk to these CEOs and stuff before they got on stage, because I was introducing them. So hey, hi, I'm your host. I was like, this is pretty cool. Like, what other way do I get to speak to these people? Because I wouldn't normally bump into them in the street, or there wouldn't normally be a reason for them to engage with me, right? And then I remember waking up a couple of times to LinkedIn messages. Hi, we're looking for an MC for our event, and thinking, I'm pretty sure I don't advertise as this, but sure, no problem. What the heck? And after I did a couple of those, there was one in particular that dropped in my inbox I'm based in London. This is for a gig in Paris with an audience of over 3,000 people for what looks like a really cool sustainability, positive impact type conference. And I was like, wait a minute. So this is not difficult for me. For me, emceeing is just something that's always been, it's been fun, and I've just kind of known how to keep people to time and move things along, and I've just enjoyed the process, right? And then I thought, people are finding me to do something and wanting to pay me to do something that I just think is fun and interesting for me to do anyway. And wait a minute, I could travel. So I could get paid to go somewhere that I'd like to travel to meet people that are kind of interesting, to do something that's fun for me. What if I told people this is what I do, right? And so it was never a, I'm going to be an MC. It was just, after a while, it just kept coming to me. It was like these things keep appearing, and it happens so easily for me without a huge amount of effort. And I'm not even looking for it, and it just keeps falling in my lap.
Mm. But then I assume that after all these incidents of all these opportunities, you then started seeing this as a business and structured it as a business, because you and we are in the same field, like supporting women to speak up, and especially to understand that the speaking business is a business.
So
and it is a very profitable business, and the market says 2025 will be 2.5 billion business, and we still have 3 men for every woman. So Lovelda, you and we have lots of work to do.
A lot of work to do.
So share your experience of when you started really making this a business.
So from the moment I decided this is what I was going to tell people I did, it was the business. Before that, it was a side thing I was doing. The moment I was like, I'm going to put MC, moderator, host on my LinkedIn profile, it was a business. that was it. There was no two ways about it. It was a business. What does a business need? It needs leads. It needs to be marketed. It needs to be out there. It needs clients. Right. And so it very much coincided with this Paris gig, which was the thing that had me go, that's it. I'm launching this. Like, this is going to be my thing. And to my credit, because I had a coach really early on who said to video everything, I had a lot of video footage of me on stage by this point already, because I literally, anytime I spoke, I had a camera with me every single time. Now, to his detriment, he didn't tell me what qualified as footage that was going to actually be useful to me. So the vast majority of that footage was redundant. But I had, in the back of my mind, I had been gathering some of this information already. But when I chose to do this gig and say, I'm going to make this my income stream, that gig in Paris was not about being paid to be in Paris. It wasn't about going and doing an incredible job in Paris. This was a marketing gig. Full stop, period, end of story. I was taking this and it was a marketing gig. And that meant fundamentally, first and foremost, I had to kill it and do such an incredible job. I was going to blow people's minds. So that was, because otherwise there's no marketing to be had from being rubbish, right? So it doesn't negate me doing a great job. First and foremost, my first priority was to do an awesome job. But what I needed to do was have this event put me on the map. Because nobody knew who I was. This is my first actual thing. I posted a few things here and there beforehand, but I hadn't really been focusing on it. And so I had a plan. I sat down and I worked out what I was going to need. What were all of the marketing opportunities I could take from this speaking engagement? Like I remember sitting down and writing them down. And so I knew I couldn't do it by myself. So I had my husband come with me. And I gave him a job. Like, it wasn't a mess around thing. I was like, babe, you're coming to work because I'm launching a business as an MC and I need marketing collateral. So his job was to get video footage. And I was explicit. I need the camera near the front of the room. I want a few different angles. I want some photos of I want photos of the audience reacting. I want photos of me on stage. I want up close photos. I want behind the scenes photos. I want testimonials, video testimonials from at least 10 people over 2 days. He had targets. It wasn't loose. I wasn't taking any chances. I was like, I want at least 10 video testimonials. I had my business cards redone and ready to go so I could hand those out straight away. He had a set of them in his pocket. I wore outfits where I could deliberately have my business card available in a pocket at all times to hand over to somebody. I had a business card and a pen in my pocket at all times in case somebody caught me and they said they were interested in ever working with me ever in the future. I was not missing an opportunity. I think that's the thing that set me aside from other women who don't have traction in speaking. Because from that point, fast forward 18 months later, I'd done multiple international gigs. I was charging minimum of 4 figures plus for every speaking engagement. I'd introduced Monica Lewinsky on stage. I'd introduced Kunal Naayar on stage. I'd worked with Rachel Elnor on stage. I got interviewed by the CEO. Like, the list was just ridiculous in terms of how quickly my profile got momentum behind it, but I was intentional about it. I didn't just do a gig and go, oh my God, this is amazing, and then shout about it and then like hit reset. Like, where do I find speaking gigs now?
Yeah. And that is what the point I want to bring here, because you were strategic. You were strategic because you had a business mentality, how you faced this opportunity. And this is what I want to bring to the ladies here, to the listener in general, not only the women, but is this, that seeing the opportunity, how can you bring this speaking opportunity to becoming a business opportunity that you can then expand it, that you can then build your visibility and show up in more stages and be paid for that. Because I know you're good on that, and I know you give trainings on that. We will share the information about it, because we do need more voices out there, and we do need more people willing to be brave, bold, and show their brilliance on stage, or any stage of life. So we have to wrap up, Lovelda. We could stay here for hours, but I have a question for you. Is what would be your suggestion, if you can give 1 to 3 tips to the audience, and when they're facing those moments of life where they have an opportunity but they don't know what to do, and what would be your suggestion?
The way I look at it is you either choose your fear or you choose your future, but not both of them win. If you choose your fear, you stay where you are, or you choose your future and you get on with it. You get more of what you focus on. And I'm sure listeners will have heard this often. Oh, it's what you focus on. I remember one of my coaches saying to me, "Oh, Lovelda, your weight, your scales system." And I was like, what the frick is she talking about? And then I remembered the way that I describe it to people is, look, if you are so used to naturally by default looking for things that go wrong, things that mightn't work out, reasons why, etc., your brain has become very good at recalling incidences that will reflect that, which makes it difficult for that to shift, right? And you can take this with anything. Oh, I'm money's really difficult. Your brain has become very good at, you get a situation in which you had an issue with money and you give it so much time and attention that it really sinks in, right? And so it makes it harder for you to shift that belief, because a belief is just, it's a thought that you've had on so many occasions, backed up by the evidence you've created, that has you believe it to be the truth. It's not the truth. It's just your way of viewing the world. And so you can choose, it's a choice that you choose to keep putting evidence behind such that you now see it as the truth. And if you want to change that, you've got to do 2 things. One, you've got to pay less attention to the stuff you don't want. If I'm not choosing to be quiet, if I'm not choosing to coast through life, if I'm not choosing to be hidden, then, and I want to choose to be visible, and I want to choose to be out there having an impact, and I want to choose to be bold, then firstly, I must recognize and honor every single opportunity that comes to me that gives me that as an opportunity, right? So what that means is, if somebody sends me an email through my inbox, for example, I don't care whether I got it or I didn't get it. I am going to celebrate the hell out of the fact that it came in. Because what I want to do is start to have myself gather the evidence that, shoot, I'm in high demand. I must be in high demand, right? I must be in high demand because this time I got look at the deal could get lost. I could send them an email and they never respond. I don't care. I was on the radar. My website got found. My demand is improving, right? So the first thing is to really recognize when those opportunities come in that are aligned to where you want to go, and catalog them, give them time and attention, and celebrate them something, right? Actually start to kind of really catalog it. Because what will happen is the next time, over time, the more of those you catalog, when you have those moments, you'll have evidence to the contrary that you've banked. And the scales tip, right? So you kind of want to go, oh, but I'm not very good at being visible. And then you go, oh yeah, but then I got that email that came in out of nowhere. And I did get 3 podcasts this week. And people are starting to come to me. And now you can't keep holding on to, I'm not visible and people don't know who the hell I am, because you're consciously collating that evidence. And the second thing I would say is, when you have those moments, because you want to take the steam out of the I'm not visible, right? When you have those moments, you want to actually stop and say, well, how is that true? Where does that come from? Actually question why. I'll give you an example. I'm launching at the moment. I remember launching, thinking, I think I'm just going to make this a program for 5 people. I had to stop myself. Why 5? Why not 500? Why not 5,000? Why 5? Why did you choose that as the ceiling that you want to put over yourself, Lovelda? What's going on there? Why do you want to go to more people? What's stopping you from doing it? So I'd also say just develop the habit of getting better at questioning the initial belief. Well, what if it was more? Why do I think that way? What if it actually worked? But develop develop a habit of not just taking those beliefs that just kind of pop up as truth and given, because they're not truth. If it was truth, if it was universal law, it would be true for everybody anywhere in the world, like gravity, and it's not.
That's an
So it's a
awesome
choice.
point. Thank you so much. But before, I wanted to say one thing. What is your brilliant side?
What's my brilliant side? Is that like what's my brilliance?
Yes, what is, because it can be your talent, can be your gift. What is, when you think about yourself and saying, I am brilliant on this?
So for me, I have a number of real brilliances. I think the thing that
Choose one.
that I value the most in terms of what set me in the best stead is absolute personal responsibility for what goes well, what doesn't go well, whether it worked or it didn't work. It is always down to me, and sometimes it has been a bitterly painful pill to swallow. People have done things to me. No, developing my ability to step into an absolute place of whatever it is, it was me. Somebody came and decided, a client's got really pissed off and I've had 5 of them in a row and the team member is after me or whatever. It was me, because the common denominator is me. And if I don't take personal responsibility for these things that are showing up in my world, that something within me has brought them to me, whether it was an insecurity at the time that I was looking for this person, this team member, please help me, please save me because I can't do it by myself. And then they took advantage of me. That was my responsibility. I let them. And it doesn't make it easy, but developing that ability to really take a cold, hard look in the mirror and sometimes deal with the shit I just don't like about myself. It's not always great. I'm not perfect. There'll be people listening, Lovelda did. I probably did. It wasn't a smooth sailing road. But yeah, being able to and consistently digging deep to find the courage to face the realities I've created, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
That's absolutely awesome. And this is a topic that we can bring in another conversation. And thank you so much for being here with us today. And we continue this conversation because we want to show up the ladies who are brave, bold, and brilliant out there and speak up unapologetically. That's all for today. I hope you got inspired to raise your game and be brave, bold, and brilliant. Make sure you listen to my other podcasts. Stories are great sources of inspiration and transformation. Subscribe. Remember, there is someone somewhere who needs to hear exactly what I shared with you here today. Be generous and spread the word. Give your feedback and help grow this awesome community. Until then, be brave, bold, and brilliant, and speak up unapologetically.